All right, talk your golf.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, here we are, PGA versus LIV. Didn't really sound great when they decided to come out with this LIV tour. Couple of the big name PGA golfers went over, got a little ridicule from it, and then next thing you know, the PGA comes to Rochester. Do you think it had an influence on them now merging?
Do I?
Yes.
Well, you know what the interesting part about it was like early on, it was like the first sign of it. They had been coexisting reasonably for a while. They come to Rochester in the PGA, and at the first hole, they start booing the LIV golfers. And the commentators like, this is the first time we've heard this, and most of them been trying to ignore it. So there was something happening.
Which I find funny because, like, God forbid there's some passion in golf, right? Like, Tiger Woods brings passion to golf for the first time in decades, and it blows up the sport, right? It's like the greatest thing that ever happened. Now you have fans that are passionate about what's going on here, and they're trying to stomp it down. To your point that you made a second ago, I think that a victory by a LIV golfer at the PGA Championship did speed up what happened here, a merger between LIV and the PGA. However, how did the PGA do this to the people that were most loyal to them this whole time? Now, as we talk about this, it's still an early story. We don't know what the entire details are. But Rory McIlroy is the one that pops out in my head at first. Rory McIlroy, if I'm not mistaken, made $8 million on the PGA Tour last year. There were guys getting $100 million in guaranteed money. And what did Rory McIlroy get out of it? He got screwed completely. He didn't want the money. He said that out loud. He wanted to play for a principal. And it sounds like the PGA sold that principal out from under him without asking. If I'm him, I am doing everything I can to recoup that money at the expense of the PGA.
And basically, here's what you did. You allowed the LIV golfers to be a part of the PGA, which means that if they played well, which they did at the PGA Championship, they would be on a stage and everybody would know that they were LIV golfers. So it's almost as if you're allowing them to be on this big tour, not basically making a stand or going with Rory's situation, you know, it's on principle, can't let these golfers come over here and market. They only came over and market, they won one of your major tournaments.
But here's the thing, I don't mind LIV golfers winning tournaments when you still have principle to stand on, right? And this is what it all comes down to. The PGA was full of crap the entire time based on what we know now as we tape this thing. It's almost 100 years old, and I respect it, despite the fact that the PGA prints money hand over fist, that they were going to take a stand, they were going to draw a line in the sand, and you go do your thing, we're going to do it the way we think it should be done. That's the end of it. To buckle the way that it seems they did right now, despite the fact we saw with our own eyes while they were in Rochester, the amount of money they were making hand over fist from people that were at the event. I cannot believe what I witnessed this week.
But it was a quick fight, because remember, this is not that long ago.
It's not.
I think if this had gone on for maybe 5, 6 years, 10 years, and then you would have been like, all right, the PGA did everything they could to fight this. This was a quick one. I think this was like an early round knockout.
Throughout the history, the ABA, the World Hockey Association, the American Football League, all the rest of these, they coexisted peacefully. The players did, at least. There was no animosity between the players. This one was so different because it was like you had to take sides.
Well, because, I mean, golf is a personal sport. I think that's the wrong transition, because it would be like this. If the Dallas Cowboys jumped ship from the NFL and went and played in the NFL, there would be animosity between the owners. These players are their own owners, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more comparable to boxing or horse racing or something like that. I mean, and here's the thing. We're kind of skirting the biggest issue here, and the one that's going to be the most controversial, where the funding comes from for the LIV Tour and the stance that the PGA took on that. All of the things that were said from PGA officials and PGA golfers who now are going to be paid, it seems, under the same umbrella of this company that they had an issue with. How do you remedy that?
I'll tell you that. The check got bigger. That's how. I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm telling you there was a price. They met that price. They were able to get the golfers. Now they have the PGA.
But what about the music and the Bermuda shorts and the 3 rounds? Where do these things go?
Well, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that stuff. And here's the thing, to your point.
They care about eyeballs. That's what they want.
To your point, the PGA obviously had a price. You're right. But the golfers that stayed didn't, because they could have went and gotten that money anytime they wanted to, right? Rory McIlroy makes a heck of a lot of money. Colin Morikawa makes a heck of a lot of money, but it was peanuts compared to what their former co-workers were making. They could have been bought at any time, and they did not do it. And they got the rug pulled out from under them.
They're not getting a check out of it, though. So, I mean, you pick yourself up and keep moving forward.
But that's the point I'm making, right? Like, guys that made $300 million as opposed to Rory's $8, fix it. How do you fix that?
You can't.